you
Okay,
sure it'll
You're being
against you?
recorded now.
Okay, is everybody in?
No, not yet. It's 6:59. So do we need to do anything with Colleen to introduce it to what's going on before we
Well,
admit people in?
Are the other people coming on or not? Or what are we doing now with?
We're
with
gonna open it
everybody
up
else?
We're
shortly.
gonna open it up in 1 minute. They're still in the waiting area.
Okay, well, let's get them in. Frank,
Okay.
let me pick up the ball initially, I guess,
Okay,
because
go.
it's the insurance, right?
Yeah,
Well, I
definitely.
will wait for the people to come in.
All
Right.
right, they're joining now.
Okay.
People. Hey, Vince,
Yes.
I'm gonna make an opening statement, then I'll introduce you, then
You
you
got it. Okay,
okay?
yeah.
Let me know when everybody's ready. We'll go.
Well, we have 18 people total. 19.
Nice. Let me know when you're ready.
You see anybody outside, Mark, at this point?
No, I see everyone inside, nice and cozy.
Okay, let's get started then. Okay, good evening, everybody. Madison Crossing residents that are come to work at the open workshop with us today. This is an informal workshop of the board. This is I think one of the first times we're having the actual workshop meeting open. We used to have them closed and then invite homeowners after our closed meeting to discuss anything on their minds. We're going to try to do a little bit different so you can see us, how we work, how we do things. It's informal for us. We talk about, we have an agenda. We try to stay with the agenda. In some cases, if we're close to feeling that we need to take a vote on something, we do take a vote. Otherwise, we hold off till we get more information. Sometimes there's not enough information on a particular topic that we will table to the next thing. You need to know that the board does work not only during these workshops, we also work during the week, every day on projects. We'll have different assignments that we cover. We help each other. We fact find, and then we contribute back and forth to each other. And then at the workshop, we try to culminate all our ideas and see what's best for the community, what makes sense against the budget. And are we covering questions that are brought to us in between workshops and HOA meetings? So the rules are the same as a regular HOA meeting. The board will talk and do our business according to the agenda. And then at the end of our open session, we're going to open up the meeting to the residents that are dialed in now to ask the board any questions. We will hear your concerns. We may not have answers for them immediately, but they'll be duly noted, and that we will then from there go further, get information, and it goes on and on like that. So with that, I'm going to introduce you all to the president of the HOA, Vince Ferrante. So take it over, Vince, from there.
Thanks, Frank. Appreciate it. Okay, so we renewed our community insurance policy for Madison Crossing, and the current deductible for any claim that we have is $10,000. And of course, the board is aware of that information. We were advised by our attorney and by our insurance broker to have a resolution made up about how to treat this $10,000 deductible. Specifically, if a claim were to happen in someone's home and they were responsible for the claim, then they should be responsible for the deductible. Now, it's not as bad as it sounds, because most of the time your insurance company will pay that $10,000 deductible, and the resident won't have to pay any of that money at all. However, while our attorney has drawn up the resolution, and when the board discussed it, more questions came up that we felt it necessary to get clarification before we try to get this passed in our community. We have invited Colleen, who is right there waving her hand. Colleen is our insurance agent. She's extremely knowledgeable when it comes to condo associations and how these insurance policies work. And we've asked her to join so that we can ask her the questions that we are not clear about on how this deductible would work and how the resolution would actually play with our community. So Colleen, I'm going to kind of turn it over to you, but basically the question that came up was if there's a claim and it's a homeowner's claim, meaning that, let's say, God forbid, it was a fire in their home and they caused it. The simple answer, as I understood it, was that in that scenario, the homeowner would be responsible for the $10,000 deductible. And if they've got the right insurance company, their insurance company should be stepping up to the plate and paying that $10,000 deductible for the homeowner. And the resolution was needed for two reasons. One, to tell the homeowner that they were legally responsible for the deductible, and number two, that was needed for them to give to the insurance company as their proof that they had to have it, and that's how the insurance company would reimburse them for that deductible. So that was part of the questions, and then there was some more, but let's start with that one, Colleen.
Yeah, okay, so hi, everybody. I've been handling you guys' insurance for several years now. I've been with JGS for about 16 years, doing nothing but condominium associations. The issue with the deductible resolution is really just a safeguard for the association to prevent a unit owner from stating that they're not going to pay the deductible and then having the association have to pay that out of their reserve funds. If a claim involving your unit occurs, it could be, let's say, a fire, could be a pipe leak, anything like that that happens inside your unit, you would be responsible for that association's $10,000 deductible, as long as whatever caused the damage is not excluded on your personal condo owner's policy. Your policy would kick in to pay that deductible on your behalf. You would still be responsible for your personal deductible. So let's say you have a $1,000 deductible on your HO6 policy. You'd have to pay that $1,000 personal deductible. Your carrier would pay that $9,000 difference. And then the association's policy would kick in to pay anything else that they're legally responsible for. And your HO6 policy would pay for anything else that's excluded under the association's insurance. Now, some examples of what might typically be excluded on an HO6 policy would be earthquake. The association has earthquake coverage, but most HO6 carriers don't offer it. You could get it by endorsement, but it's not typically included. So that would be something that if an earthquake happened, that's actually a bad example because it wouldn't be something resulting from inside your unit. But the gist is, if whatever caused the loss is excluded on your HO6 policy, then they will not pay the deductible for you. But most of those policies would probably have what we call special formed causes of loss. So it'll cover anything that isn't specifically excluded. And normal exclusions are flood, meaning water coming in from outside the unit, not from a pipe, earthquake, war, terrorism, stuff like that. Those are the typical exclusions. So most of the common causes of loss would be covered and your carrier would pay that deductible difference.
Colleen, let me go in a different direction for a moment. So let's take a scenario. Let's say there's a fire. Now the fire destroys the kitchen cabinets and damage to the sheetrock walls, and also, let's say, their kitchen table. So in that scenario, as I understand it, our community policy would have to pay for the kitchen cabinets, for example, and the sheetrock walls. Am I correct or incorrect in that?
Yeah, the community's insurance pays for anything the original developer installed after the deductible. So anything that's original to the unit, any upgrades that were done by a previous unit owner or the current unit owner, anything that wasn't done by the original developer is excluded under the association's insurance. But whatever the original developer installed, whether it's hardwood floors, could be, a high-end kitchen cabinets, granite countertops, any of that stuff, if the original developer installed it, it falls under the commercial insurance after that $10,000 deductible.
So in this scenario, then, both the homeowner should notify their insurance company and the board should be notifying, in this case, you of that same claim. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yep, unless the damages are under $10,000, in which case we would just recommend that the unit owner submit it to their HO6 carrier. The little claims like that, while we can submit them to Madison Crossings Insurance, we don't want to see a lot of losses showing up. If they're under the deductible, we'd prefer for them not to hit the loss runs at all with the association loss history, because that can affect future pricing, just because they'll see a bunch of little incidents, even if nothing was paid out because it was under the deductible.
Okay. Frank, Ben, you had a question that really was the curveball. So
Yeah, I have two. Before I go to my question that I brought to the board, I have a question for Colleen. Acts of gods, lightning, wind, trees falling. Where does that fall? Responsibility.
So it really depends on how your attorney worded that deductible resolution. I'm not a legal expert, but I believe what it was specifying was that if the cause of loss came from a limited common element, meaning something that's specific to a unit, an interior pipe, toilet overflow, kitchen fire, something like that, that it would be the responsibility of the unit owner. But if it came from a common element, or say outside a building in, then the association would cover it.
Okay.
I'd have to look at the wording on that deductible resolution.
Next question I have is I am not sure if it's mandatory by our bylaws that every homeowner needs to carry an HO6 insurance policy. Do we know that, board? Anybody? Because if somebody doesn't have insurance, that creates a different problem for the association as well.
Well, I've heard that in other associations where they have these resolutions, that they've made it mandatory that a homeowner has to get this HO6 coverage or a homeowner's insurance. Colleen, what's your experience in it?
I would recommend including it in this resolution that you're working on right now, that the unit owners must carry an HO6 policy if they actually live there. It would be an HO4, I believe, for a tenant. A unit owner not living in the unit wouldn't be eligible for an HO6. They'd have to get some other type of dwelling policy. But I do recommend including that as a requirement in there, because $10,000 is a lot of money for somebody to have to shell out of their pocket. You know, if you have a claim, you want to be able to recover your personal property, your clothes, your furniture. Heaven forbid it's a bad fire, you could lose everything. If you don't have your own insurance policy, all of your personal property, think if you picked up your unit and shook it upside down, anything that would fall would be considered your personal property or contents. The association has absolutely zero responsibility to cover any of that. Doesn't matter what caused the damage, you're entirely responsible to insure your own property. So because $10,000 is such a large amount, and especially given the way things have gone with the last year with the pandemic, that a lot of people are strapped for cash right now, we really recommend that you require them to carry insurance.
Okay, so now the other question. We talked about this coming from the homeowner paying the deductible of the HOA's insurance policy. Does that work in reverse? And I'm going to give you an illustration. I personally had over $12,000 worth of damage to my home because I had a water leakage from outside into my home. It was $4,000 in water mitigation, and I'm spending another close to $9,000 to repair. Now I have insurance, so it's being taken care of, but I'm personally liable for my own personal deductible. Can I charge that deductible back to HOA insurance? Not that I'm going to, it's a question, because it's working the opposite way. And I understand what you said about small claims and all that under 10,000 and so forth. But I was away for the weekend and I had water intrusion from the roof. Had I been away for a vacation, it would have been worse. Went through the first floor into the basement area. So the question I'm asking you is, I'm not saying I'm going to ask for the money, because I understand that it just will raise our HOA fees. We'll get dinged, we get marked because of claims and frivolous claims, if it's, so forth. I'm just asking the question, is it a two-way street? Because what I'm hearing, it sounds like only a one-way street, that the homeowner insurance policy has to pay the HOA's deductible. Well, does that work in reverse?
The only way that would work in reverse is if your HO6 carrier decided that the association was liable for what happened, and they might themselves try to subrogate against the association to recover the damages.
Yeah, well,
Only happens if it's something where they think the association would be negligent. Let's say there's a dead tree outside your building and the association should have taken it down because they knew it was diseased or dead, and that tree fell down and went right through your unit. That would probably be an example where your HO6 carrier would say, no, you guys are responsible for this and we're going to sue you for it.
okay, fine. I understand. It's, my deductible is very low and I'm going to be made whole. It's just that I want to ask that question because other homeowners may have the same question to ask now if they're paying attention, that, one, we're going to make it mandatory. It looks like we're going to make it mandatory that every homeowner has to carry an HO6. We're going to ask the homeowners to vote for the resolution so they're aware. I just brought that up as a flip opposite yin yang back and forth type of scenario. That's why I asked the question.
It is possible, depending on what caused the loss, that your HO6 carrier would then go after the association to recoup the funds, in which case they would also try to recover your deductible for you.
I see. Okay, good. Question answered. No problem. I'm good.
All right. Are there any other questions about the insurance, or are we?
Yeah, Vinny, we have a question
Mark.
from one of our residents. So let's just cover the most common scenario real quick. So the question states, in case of the fire, is the homeowner typically responsible for the $10,000 deductible, or is the fire generally covered under the typical homeowner's policy?
Colin, you pick it up. I know the answer, but you do it.
Requires a common cause of loss pretty much regardless of what type of policy you have. So in that case, the unit owner would be responsible just for their personal deductible that they have on their HO6, and then their policy would kick in to pay the difference, the $9,000 difference. You do need to make sure most HO6 carriers will cover that deductible under what's called coverage A, or dwelling coverage. So you need to make sure that you have at least a $10,000 dwelling limit. That would need to be higher if you have any upgrades that weren't installed by the original developer. There's a handful of carriers out there that would cover it as an assessment instead of dwelling. So whichever way, you would just need to advise your insurance carrier that you could be responsible for this $10,000 deductible. Make sure it's on my policy, however they need to include it. But it is usually under dwelling coverage A.
Colin, let me add something to everyone that's signed on to this meeting. First of all, an HO6, we've been using that term, is actually what we call a condo policy. So that's the coverage that we're talking about. You need to check with your insurance agent, or if you're direct with an insurance company, you need to ask them that question, if they would pick up this $10,000 deductible. Should you have a claim that was your responsibility? Now, I own an insurance agency, and we represent a number of insurance companies, and I'm not advertising, but what I'm telling you is we checked all of our carriers and they all said yes. So it's very common that they would say yes. But if you happen to be with an insurance company that says no, once we put this resolution in place, you should change your insurance company. You need to find one that's going to respond to this $10,000 deductible issue and reimburse you for that $10,000.
I have never heard of a condo owner's policy where the carrier said that they would not cover that deductible.
I haven't either, but I don't know if there's one that's out there.
Never know
Just
it's possible.
double check. Just make sure that, yeah, exactly.
So does the board, are we clear on what we need to do to reread the resolution to make sure that we have it the way it's supposed to be written by our general counsel? Is there any open items like, I mentioned acts of God, lightning, wind, trees? Do we know if that was written in there? I have to reread the resolution again myself to see.
I read the resolution. As you know, it's like 8 or 9 pages that
Yeah.
our attorney, Tom Giamo, put together. And it's really only page 8 or 9 where he actually addressed that. And he's talking in general terms. He didn't, and he wouldn't go over every possible coverage that,
Right,
Um,
I understand.
yeah.
The other thing is, the other question that came up out of our conversation with Colleen today, board members, is that do we have a line in the resolution that says all homeowners must carry a condominium
No,
title?
we may have to get that, added, Frank. That's a good point.
So let's make note of that, so we talk to
Yeah,
a
yeah.
council on that one. That's an
Susan,
important.
if you don't mind,
Mhm.
just make note of that.
Yep, done.
Okay.
Good.
Are there any other questions, board members, before we turn this over to
I'm good with it. No. I'm
No,
fine.
thank you, Colleen, very
Everybody's
much
good?
for your time.
Very good. Thank you, Colin.
Colleen? If you can't sleep and you want to hang around and listen to our meeting, you can. If not, thank you for signing on.
Is there a chance any of the other unit owners have questions about the insurance? Were they texting those in?
Well, that's a
Yeah,
good point.
We
Hi,
had,
guys. This is Tatiana Greenberg from 3 Baker Court. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes,
Yes,
we can.
I joined you late. I'm sorry, but I'm not quite understand this 10,000 policy something. Is it part of the insurance when we have the insurance policy, or is it something additional is coming up?
No.
Maybe there is
Tatiana-
some written somewhere to go through just to understand what's going on.
We'll explain it again in an email to everyone, but as long as you have an insurance policy for your contents in your home, you will be fine. And you
Okay.
will not have to worry about the $10,000 deductible.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, so I guess we're gonna close out the topic of insurance deductible resolution at this time. We're gonna move to the next agenda, which is whole house generators, board members. In the past, we've had inquiries to us about the whole house generator. Is it possible? In the past, we've decided that it wasn't, we should go along with that and allow homeowners to put whole house generators in place. Because it was asked by a number of different homeowners, the board always takes whatever's asked of us very seriously. So I did some research on whole house generators. Many other communities today are allowing their homeowners to install them. It's always done on a case-by-case basis because we have a very unique situation in Madison Crossing. We have villas, townhouses, and our houses are attached to each other. There are certain rules that have to happen. At this time, I'll go through a quick thing. It's nothing definite. We are not voting tonight on this if we're going to go forward with this. I just want to inform the board about my findings. And from that, once I have it all written out, I will present a fact sheet to the board and we'll continue the discussion. And then we can let the homeowners know if we are or if we are not going in that direction. As we know, whole house generators cost a lot of money, anywhere between $8,000 to $12,000 to do a whole house. I used my home as a guinea pig. I had somebody come out from a reputable company. And here's the long and the short of it. First, the board would have to say, approve, you can. Then once we say it's okay to have a whole house generator in the community, we do not get overly involved at that point. The town of Old Bridge will be the governing body to do it. You would need to get a fire permit, a plumbing permit, an electric permit, and a zoning permit. These generators can be within 18 inches of the home, but if there's an open window, or as they call it, a vent pipe, a door or window, the generator has to be 5 feet from the building. That immediately knocks down a lot of those that can and cannot have it. Secondly, the generator has to be directly hooked at the gas meter. That also is another deterrent on where these things can be placed. In a standalone single home, it's easy. You own it, you can put it anywhere you want it. There's always been as the board in the past has discussed this topic, there's always an issue about noise. These generators today are a lot better than they are. They're a lot safer than the portable ones that we all probably used during Sandy. But they are loud. They are no louder than the disturbance noise ordinance of Old Bridge. They're inside that limit. And then the next thing was, well, they have to be ran every so often so they stay ready to go into action if there is a power failure. That means every 2 weeks for 5 minutes, the generator goes on, runs the diagnostics. It tells the homeowner, do you need a battery? Do you need an oil change? Do you need spark plugs? Is going to run efficiently. It runs for 5 minutes every 2 weeks. We could set, if we do go forward, we would set the time of this could happen between 11 and say 4 in the afternoon. It's no louder than when they cut the lawn in the community. You hear those lawnmowers going around. We had them cut grass the other day. Driving by your window, they're there 5-6 minutes cutting grass and they're gone. That would be the sound there. I'm not going to get any further into particulars about warranties and all that. I rather, for the board, I just wanted to bring it up that I did the investigation because we had inquiries from homeowners. I'm going to put together a fact sheet, and then either we will table it to the next board open workshop or a closed workshop or in between a workshop, and we'll discuss it further. So that's all I have on the whole house generator.
Yeah, Frank, can we spend a couple seconds? Just, I have a couple
Sure.
questions on this.
Sure.
So you made a comment around the fact that the gas line needs to be directly hooked to the gas meter. Does it have to be done on the ground? Does it have to be done over ground? What above ground? What's the,
Okay, it all depends where the gas meter is and how close a proximity the generator would be to that. It has to be first in line. Actually, it gets a T before the gas goes into your home. It could be either trenched underground, which is expensive, or if possible, it could be ran alongside of the house. Now, that's another issue. Is it unsightly? Is it in a good area? These are all the things that we have to look and see what goes on there with that. You know, that's what a lot of work to be done before this. And by a short note, I was told because of COVID and supply chains, there's a 36-week wait to get a generator. So that's another aspect of this whole thing. But I just wanted to, let everybody, the board know that I'm working on this. And like I said, we'll have more discussion to see if it makes sense for this community to do it. And that's it. Anybody else have questions from the board to me on this?
Frank, I have a question.
Yeah.
But also, I'm sure if you're going to do a whole house generator and it involves gas and everything else, this is something that I'm sure has to be approved by the township and with permits and
Yes.
everything else, correct?
That's correct. Once we say it's okay, we step out, the town will come in and see where the placement is. Is it right? All the permits have to be filed. While it's being implemented, it's got to be put on a concrete slab. It has to be bolted to the slab. The town takes over, just like when you're building a
Okay.
house. Every aspect of the installation, performance, and checking out is done by the town. The HOA has no responsibility at all for this generator.
All right, yeah, because what would we know about it? That's good.
Yeah, I can tell you from an insurance standpoint, the carriers have no issue with it. It does have to follow all the town ordinance, be installed by a licensed contractor. They have to be inspected as per the manufacturer's guidelines every so often, but from an insurance standpoint, it's no issue.
Good to know, see? Good, thanks, Colleen, for that.
That's the only reason why I hung out for the rest of the meeting. Sorry, I think the generator is probably the only other thing that I would have any input for. So if nobody has any questions for me, I will let you guys go and finish your meeting.
thank you,
Thank you,
Colleen.
Colleen. I think we're good.
Thank you, Colleen.
Everybody have a good night.
You too, thanks.
Okay, so the next topic, board members, is front gate beautification. We've been talking about this for a while. I did some drawings and I'm gonna put them up on the screen shortly, but I just want to talk about it first so we can answer the questions. There's no budget for it. We don't have it in the budget. Usually, if we were going to do an expenditure for beautification of the front gate and possibly the back gate, we would first have to find out how much it would cost. Our biggest issue with the front gate is this community happens to lie in two municipalities, Marlborough and Old Bridge. So we have to talk to two governing bodies to get permits, what their specs are, and so forth. We don't have a budget line for this, so maybe if we want to do it, we would have to talk to Frank Brady, and we would have to put our heads together to see what the cost would be, and where do we find the money to do this? Do we do it in stages? And I'll show some pictures what stages would look like to get started, and then maybe when we talk to the finance committee, maybe they have to look and see we want a line item for the beautification, so we have money to support this endeavor. The board agrees, I think, I took an early consensus that, yes, we should do something to our front gate. It's not what it should be for a community that we have, especially when you get inside our community. It doesn't reflect how great this community looks, and it is. And it also would help, I think, in safety. When visitors come down 9, you come upon that monument, which is dirty, dark, and almost non-existent, and you can run right past it, and you can make a sharp curve into it. So I'm going to share my screen. Let me see if I can do this. Can you disable my participating for sharing? Do I do it? Do I need the host to disable so I can participate in screen sharing?
Hang on, Frank. Working on it.
I hear you. See, now we were sitting in the room, we just throw the papers around the table, but because we have an open workshop for the first time, we want to include our homeowners to see what we're talking about, so they have an understanding.
So Frank, you don't have a share screen green button on the bottom of your screen?
I do. When I hit that, I get host disabled participating screen sharing.
Okay.
I think
Okay, I'm changing it right now.
Okay, good.
You see the option?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just
Can you
wanna
try
put-
now?
Okay, let me try now. Okay, so let me go here. We did that one.
Looks good.
Well, he means we could see your screen, Frank.
Good. Okay, so here it is. This is what we look like today. PRC Homes, I painted that just to see as a test for color. That's going to come off the monument. It's dirty. It hasn't been cleaned in a while. So the first thought was to maybe try some flags that would be there. So when you're driving down 9, you can always tell your visitors, when you're coming down 9, you pass Texas Road, look for the flags. That's where the entrance is. So that's the first part. To put these flags up, they have to be wind tested so they can sustain a certain amount per hour so they don't fall off and become a spear and kill somebody. And then the next thing would be, how about some flowers and we paint the monument as it is today? So maybe it's a phase 2 or phase 1, I'm not sure. Immediately you see it's brighter, easy to read that this is Madison Crossing. We're flying the American flag. We have the state flag. And here's an interesting thing. Because we have a Madison Crossing flag, believe it or not, these towns are crazy for money. We would have to get a permit for advertising, because even though it's a flag, we are advertising the community. Just a little anecdote there. So from there, maybe we change those little white columns, those little white balls, and put lanterns so we have some light. Not saying that this monument would be lit at nighttime as well. And then the creme of the creme would be to take it all the way and put wrought iron on it and make it look like a luscious entranceway to our community. So at this point, I think I'm going to start working with Susan. We'll get, COVID is over. It's been very difficult to get to the municipalities, to show them our ideas, find out what we can. I have all the measurements and sizes and things, find out what permits we need, then subcontract this out to different people, how much flagpoles cost. We have power, we have electric there, and we'll find out what all these different elements cost. And then the board will talk about it, figure out what a budget looks like. Can we get started? Do we need to find money? We have to figure that one out. But I just wanted to bring this to show the community that we are thinking about the beautification of our community from the road outside into the community itself. So that's all I got. Any questions for the board at this time?
You know, Frank, I do have one comment because obviously I've seen this before, or we all have.
Yep.
And again, first of all, you did a great job. I mean, that's just amazing what you did. The only suggestion I have, and I'm sure we'll be tweaking it along the line, down the road anyway, is the flags have to be, I think, spread apart more because the trees, the pine trees, if you're coming south on Route 9, you still wouldn't be able to see the flags in that current position.
Yeah, and then also, Vince, they got to be far enough distance between each other so those flags can swing in 300
okay,
degrees
okay.
and they don't touch and hit the trees.
All right.
Yeah, this is just a rendition to say how it
Okay.
could look and to get budgets and find out how much this thing would cost us to do.
Right, okay.
Starting point. So that's what we're going to do. Any
Okay.
other questions from the board?
Let me ask you something,
Okay, go.
Frank. In terms of the idea that we're advertising, if we have a Madison Crossing flag, I'm wondering, in order to maintain our dispensation under the Homes for Older Persons Act, we must show that we're 55 and up. So rather than, if we put that in there somewhere, it's not advertising, it's a government requirement that we're.
Okay, so we can put, listen,
An adult community.
adult
Yeah.
community right on the Birch Hill.
Well, you have to say 55. I think you have to say 55.
We'll figure that out, definitely.
Gotcha.
But
But
don't
then
you
but
know-
you understand that it's not advertising, it's a requirement.
Yeah,
for
right.
all.
Why is it advertising? You have the monument. Frank, I don't understand. Why is it advertising with a flag?
I don't
But
understand. it.
10
I
feet
heard that.
below it or 15 feet below it is a large monument saying Madison Crossing, and we could have an adult community.
Listen,
Why is it any
That's a
different?
township, that's a township ordinance.
I don't know. I don't
Well-
know what the reason is. We got that
Yeah, don't even go
information.
there.
We got that information through COVID lines. When we most municipalities are opening up now, and we go down there and we sit face to face or across the table, we'll get all those answers. So right now it's about fact finding, budgets, money, what we can do, what we can't do, how fast we can do it. So it's just a start. And when we're gonna do this, let's start it. Let's come out this year maybe and hopefully we can do something. There's no other
Good
questions.
idea, good idea, Frank.
I want to move on to front door awnings. Unfortunately, I don't have too much information on front door awnings, but it's come up a number of times. Mark has been approached by some homeowners about an awning over the front door. I know Raisa has inquired a number of times. I looked into it a number of times. And there are two schools of thought here. One is that if we have an awning over the front door, maybe they would protect the door. But these awnings would be high up where I don't know if it rains, it's still going to get wet and all that. I understand it'd be nice to have an awning. So if you're trying to open your front door, you're not getting rained on. The problem we have in this community, and I've done this 2 or 3 times already, but I'm really hitting it harder now because we have more and more inquiries about this, is that everything is different. In a villa court, we have 5 different front entrances, all different. We have townhouses. Some have little cubbies where they go in. They don't need an awning. Then we have the houses that are like on Hoffman Court and the PRC buildings that had that builder designed it where they do have a shelter over the front door. There's a canopy of some sort. The issue here is, what can we get designed that makes sense so that it looks, that it belongs and it doesn't devalue property, it adds value to the property. So at this time, I really don't have too much more to report on. I have to still dig deeper to find the answer to some of those questions, but I'm on it. And so if you are a homeowner that's thinking about this, you should be aware that we are aware of it. The board is definitely aware about this thing. Any questions for the board at this time? Okay.
It's not for the board, it's from the board. We don't have a Q&A yet for the residents, Frank.
Yeah, and we'll take those questions later and I'll.
Right. Yeah.
The next thing would be, this came up before last year, community benches. We all work, we all walk, and this is not a flat level community. We do have some hills, believe it or not. And if you go down to the clubhouse and you want to come back on a hot day, you have to go up Bayberry Boulevard. It's a long, gradually slope. You may get tired. And I know for a fact when I walk with my wife, she gets tired and we have to stop and stand and take a break. It would be nice maybe to have some benches dispersed throughout the community where you can sit and rest. Two things come to mind with benches. One, durability. Two, placement, where they may be, so that you're not encroaching on people's privacy. Is it in front of someone's deck? Is it near an open window that maybe they can hear? Or, we have to be really cognizant of that. I did some research and I found this bench. This bench is made out of 100% recycled plastic. It's durable. It's guaranteed and warranted for 20 years. It's very heavy. This is a 6-foot long bench. It's made in the USA, made out of recycled plastic, 20-year warranty. It's $338 plus tax and shipping. Shipping is roughly $106. We can get a 10% discount board. It takes 5 weeks to get them here. There is some assembly required, and we do not need to have a concrete pad. If these are placed on the grass, so your feet are close to the sidewalk, it would work. They recommend that it should be level ground so that they stay stable that way. I did some work in how to pay for this. We don't have a budget for benches, so we thought maybe people would want to donate money towards this cause because we all use it, and we could put a plaque. This is a plaque that they showed. This is somebody did this in remembrance of their family. Maybe we don't do any memorials. We just do, this bench is brought to you by the Leventhal Brady family or something like that, or whoever wants to contribute to it. A lot of small town communities, they sell bricks and they have your name inscribed and they put it in the sidewalk to whatever function they're doing. So we can look at that as well. For placement, I thought maybe we do 6. The red stars will show you approximately where I think we can put them that will satisfy the privacy issue, equally distanced around the community. So if you're taking a walk and you need to take a quiet spot to sit, you can. And that's all I got on this one, because this one is relatively easy. If we can find the money in the budget it's 6 at $300 something with the discount taxes, we're looking close to $2,500 would be the expenditure. I didn't do all the math exactly, but that's a ballpark. At this time, I'll take any questions from the board.
Frank, I have one.
Oh.
I see that you say you could just put it on the grass, but I would be concerned of it tipping over and someone getting hurt.
These are not like that little. These benches are not light like the bench that we have. I don't have the actual weight. They weigh a couple hundred pounds, I think. They handle up to 650 pounds of sitting weight. It's not like that little bench that we have by the flagpole down by the
Right.
the clubhouse.
Okay.
It's a substantial bench. This benches are used in the community I live in down south, Long Beach Island. They had them on top of the dunes. They're left out all year long, sitting on the sand.
No problem.
No problem. So yes, safety is also a very important factor.
Well, I listen, I tell you something, I'm all for the benches, quite frankly. And if I can't imagine that we can't find $2,500
Okay,
Uh,
so then
from,
we-
from,
if we are in
Frank,
agreement,
from that capital, was it the capital fund?
Working capital.
Hang
Working
on.
capital
Working
account?
capital.
But
okay,
anyway,
so,
I'm all for it, I can tell you that.
okay, so let's get let's make a motion then. We want to do benches.
Hang
Do I
on,
have-
can we ask some questions before we do the motion, please?
Oh, yeah, sure, definitely. I'm
In a
sorry.
rush.
Yeah, so-
Let's not be in a rush.
Do they require assembly and installation of some sort, or do they come completely pre-assembled?
There's some assembly.
But we have a maintenance guy here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we can have him install them.
I don't think it's a lot of work.
I'm sure it's not.
Hell, it's probably, the slats have to be just bolted into the
Right.
legs and that's done.
So
Uh,
you
Let
made
Jim Stein do it on-
you made some comments about whether we're gonna allow residents to contribute to the cost of the benches or not. I guess, how do we decide on that before we take the motion?
I don't know. Do you think
That's
it's a
a
good
good
idea? You think it's a good idea? We just sucked it up and paid 2,500. If we have the money in the budget, we can find the money, we do it. If we don't, we can ask the residents if they want to donate something.
You know what, Frank, if we agree to put the benches on, let's give it a week or two, send a picture around, offer it to the community. If we get volunteers to, want to put their name on the plaque, on the bench, fine. If not, then we'll see whether or not Frank Brady can find the money.
I like that approach,
That's
Vinny.
good. The only thing is, Vince, I don't think we can make a motion to commit money at this kind of meeting.
Right,
That has to
No,
be
we
done
can't.
at an HOA meeting.
right.
Okay, we can then agree that we're going to move forward with benches.
Yeah, I'm just agreeing to
We
move
can
forward with
agree
it, Frank.
to Move forward,
I mean,
yes.
For my one vote, I'd like to move forward with that. I think
I
it's a
would
good
like to
idea.
move forward on it.
Moving
Okay.
forward.
I just want to remind everyone else that we're gonna save your questions for the end of this meeting. So if you're raising your hand, we're not gonna unmute your line until the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, so that is the end of what I have. We went through the first five. At the end, after we do number 6, we will open it up for questions for all the 6 topics that we spoke about tonight. And then we can listen to the questions and answers. And if we don't have any issues on benches, then we could agree. I'll ask for not a motion, but I'll ask to hear that is the board all in favor to proceed with to go forward to put benches, and we'll work it out on how we're going to go forward with that. Okay, so let's go to backyard water issues. This issue came up this week. That there are some homes in their backyards, well, in the community areas that are adjacent to their homes, in the back, the sides of their homes, that it's very soggy, wet. And is there anything that we could do to mitigate this from continuing to happen? We did have an extremely wet winter, a lot of snow, and all that snow melted into the ground. So the ground is probably super saturated, but we have questions from Maria Court, Barbara Court, Hoffman Court. We were aware of some of them already. We've tried to mitigate them in the past. So I don't have too much on this. So let's talk about it, board, and let's see what we think we should do here.
Frank, how many homes do you think we're talking about? Any idea at all?
Well, let me see. Hold on a second. Hold on. I think there's a little. Well, I know there's two on Maria Court that have asked about the backyard. Well, we know we have one on Hoffman Court. Maybe there's 2 on Hoffman Court. I know we've always had drainage problems on Hoffman Court on the back of the road that faces the road.
Yeah,
We're
Frank,
finding
sorry,
out-
sorry to cut in, but we have 2 in Maria Court, 1 in Hoffman Court, and 1 in Barber Court. We have 4 right now that we're aware of.
We're investigating, right?
Well, there's another one we need to throw in on
Yeah.
Daily Court.
Well, on Daily?
Pretty significant, yeah.
Okay. So I know for a fact that we've had people out. I've been out myself at one time. I know Bob's been out for a couple of times. I've been out to Maria Court quite a few times, between where Maria D'Angelo has her home and Mark Lip has his home in that centerpiece there, which wraps around. It goes down behind Joe Torre and through that whole section back there. We've had landscapers out, we've had irrigation people out, we've had contractors out, and no one has come up yet with a conclusive remedy.
Mhm.
Some people have asked, maybe we need to move the water away from the homes. Well, that's what we're doing now. The grade is set so that water runs away from homes, from the gutters and the leaders. That water has to go somewhere when it comes off the roof. It's dumped out into the common areas. When this community was built, the builder, we don't know whether he did a good job or not, because it's 15 years later in some areas. With the drainage apparatus enough? Were there enough dry wells? Were there enough drains put into the lawns with piping to move the water from the top surface of the grassy areas? Because water doesn't, when it runs hard, does not run just straight down into the earth. It runs along the grass area, and if it's sloped, it moves into one direction. I don't know. It's up for discussion. So we can talk about it a little bit and see what we want to do or what we should be doing, and see these are common areas, which makes it even more difficult to remedy because it's a common area. If it's not causing damage, quote, damage to inside of homes through concrete cracks in there, if you have a basement or in a floor, in a slab, we know we have one issue there. We've been trying to work through that with one homeowner on Hoffman Court. We've been out a number of times. We've had experts look. We still haven't cracked that code. I know to help some of the people on Hoffman, we've added larger gutters because that's, if you look from the road, that's one giant roof. And all that water comes down into the gutter, into the leaders. That water is being pushed out to a drain that's further out away from the home. The first obligation is to protect the home and not have water intrusion to the homes. It's not about, is the grass too soggy when I walk on it? Sounds cruel, but you know, our responsibility is to make sure that the homes stay dry in this community. So we are now hearing from 2 homeowners on Maria Court that they're experiencing a lot of wet behind their homes. I haven't heard that they had any water intrusion yet, and we'll find out. I think some of them are on the meeting tonight. They can ask the board questions and see, so we can understand what they are experiencing, so that we can then get proper people in to see what the remedy is to help these situations. It's not everywhere. It's isolated throughout the community. So anybody else on the board wants to talk about it, they can. Any ideas, anything they know, you know, I like to hear from them as well. I mean,
Frank, I don't know, if Susan told me that she had gotten up an estimate from, I'm not sure who, about this issue. And Susan, maybe you could shed some more light on it, but what I remembered about it was the quote was $10,000.
yes. And before she gets on and talk about it, that quote was to say, run lines under the ground to move the water that comes off the roof into your gutter, into the leader, underground to the street.
Oh,
Now,
well,
that's why it's a lot of money.
Okay.
Digging trenches and everything else. Now, the early people that lived in Madison Crossing, and Bob can attest to this, we had, when Kara built a lot of the homes, and I don't know for sure whether this was a HOA PRC joint venture.
No, I think it wasn't PRC. I don't think it was involved in this, Frank.
When was it Kara at the
It
time?
was Kara.
Okay,
Yeah.
what we complained so badly, it was a health hazard to every homeowner. What would happen would be the rainwater would run off the roofs onto the driveways and the walkways, because that's where they ended. And they would run down the driveway to the street. If it froze overnight, you walked out, you couldn't get out of your house. You need ice skates, or to get out of your house, even to get to your car, or try to get your car out of your garage. It was impossible. So what they did on their cost, because it was really a deficient thing and it was a safety hazard to the homeowners, they ran lateral lines underground directly into the sewers. And that was on the builder's responsibility.
Right.
Now, this is a different situation, board members. This is about soggy grass, and and no intrusion into homes.
Yeah.
And so we need to look at this different. Now, that $10,000 bid was to run drainage lines from a couple of homes all the way to the street. That's only 2.
Okay.
Now, if 2 get it, does that mean 10 get it? Does 50 get it? Does 100 get it? That's more money than we're spending to do the community that we're doing to repair stairs. There's no one to go after. The builder is not here. It hasn't happened all the time. There's isolated conditions. So we really have to be careful, and we need a lot of dialogue. This is the first time we're talking about this amongst ourselves to figure out what we should do, how we can do it, do we have money, and so forth. So that's all I have. Now, if Susan wants to talk further, let her talk about what she's found out so far, and then we could open this up to the community.
Hey, Frank, I have a question for you. Does this issue go away in the summer? Or is it just a puddling issue in the spring, or?
I don't know. We got to ask the homeowners. I don't. Good
Frank,
question.
I think if you look at some of the areas, like even the cut throughs on Maria Court, you have it on Seaman Court. I think right next to Frank Schindelheim's house, as you
I have
walk down, I think you step in mud next to your house.
I
And
do.
that's pretty much year round.
Well,
And I only have one question. I mean, we're getting a lot of information from people say they think it's this, they think it's that. There's got to be more than one cause to what's happening. It's got to be more than water just coming off the gutters and down the leaders and pouring on the grass.
you're right.
It's pooling. Why hasn't it pooled, for instance, on Maria Court in all the years it's been there? Why is this the first year it's happened? We need to get somebody, if we can identify somebody who's an expert in grading, and take a look at how our property sits, what they feel is the issues we're addressing. And it may be a simple fix for everybody versus, an expensive fix to have to do if it's not intruding in somebody's home.
You're right.
But it's very uncomfortable if you try to walk out on your backyard and you're ankle deep in water.
True.
It's not what people want here.
That's right. And no, Bob, I live on Seaman Court next to Frank Schindelheim's home. I have that cut through between our homes, the separation,
Right?
the steep incline. Now, when it rains hard, it's a running river.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot walk down that. I've
Right.
fallen many a time, slipped on that water, on that wet grass. In the summer months, to your point, Vince, it does dry out. But after a heavy rain for a few days, it's soggy out there and it's dangerous.
Frank, how is it when the sprinklers are on?
It's not bad. It doesn't really happen so much with sprinklers.
Yeah, yeah.
It's more when we have these terrific down rain pours that we have in the summer months, and usually in the spring, like right now,
Yeah.
it's a little soggy going up and down that passageway. You have to be careful.
I just think we should really evaluate it as best we can
Not muted.
to see what we're really looking at, to kind of come up with some causes that make sense to everybody.
I agree, Bob. This is fairly new information for the board, and we need a little bit
Right.
more time to review this and come up with a
Yeah,
game
it's-
plan.
This is not something we can come up with an answer on tonight
That's
or
sure.
tomorrow. It's
Oh,
gonna
I
take
wasn't
some
about
time.
to ask that question. You're right. I think you're right. We need to get an expert
Yep.
in here that deals with water flow
Rating and all of that.
rating,
Right.
and all that. We need to get to the right person. Maybe we're not talking to the right person right now, but you know what? At this point in time, that now that the board has been addressed on all the topics that we want to talk about tonight, anybody else?
Yeah. We have a question. We have a raised hand from Mr. Mark Lips. I'm going to unmute his line in 1 second.
Okay,
we're,
You know,
as long as that works, unless Mark, you're able to unmute yourself, because I am having difficult time unmuting your line.
no?
No, hang on. Hi, Mark, you should be on now.
Okay, could you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. There's a dry well behind, I brought this issue up about 4 years ago to the old board, okay? They told me it was an Old Bridge Township problem and that they were gonna see if they could get it corrected. 2 years went by, it was never corrected. It's wet 365 days a year back there on the side of my house to the back of my house. No matter whether it's dry, wet, dry, raining, whatever the issue is. There's a dry well behind my house, behind Barber Court, okay? That the grading's pitched up to the dry well from my house to the dry well. Now, I'm no physicist, but I can tell you that water doesn't run uphill. Okay, so it has to do with the grading. And it has to be corrected. And Frank, they weren't gonna pitch the water out, run the water out to the street. They were gonna run it to the dry well, because I was involved in that, that negotiation with the landscaper, and they were gonna run the pipes to that dry well from the side of my house. Now, $10,000 is a little crazy, I understand that, but the guy brought up the right way to do it. You could probably get it done cheaper. I think he was a little, went a little crazy with the price, but that's the way it has to be done. It has to be a French drain on the side of the house, pitched out to that dry well, and that's the only way the water is going to run into that dry well. Because the way this is graded in the back of Barber Court between Hoffman Court, it's just graded uphill, and the water's never going to make it there. And the water runs off the houses, which is correct. Okay, but it runs off the house, but it stays in one spot. And when it rains, it stays there. They'll stay there 365 days a year. Can't walk behind my house to get to my patio on the back of my house.
This is the information we need to have from homeowners that see it and live it. And, to your point, Mark, the guy threw a number out there, but, the board will do heavy investigation, vet different people, see what the experts say. The other thing I was just thinking about, you said the dry well back there. If that dry well, maybe the dry well itself is too small.
No, it's huge.
It's huge. Yeah,
it's huge. It's just, they already have a French drain behind Barber Court going into that dry well.
Okay.
There is a French drain, but that's behind Barber Court. My house is behind and to the side. I have a common, we have a common path. Okay, but there's no French drain going between my house. It's just the back of Barber Court, because the hill behind the house in Barber Court sloped down, so they put a French drain in there, which is understandable. I have the same hill from Hoffman Court to my house and to the rest of Barber Court, and there's no French drain there.
Okay, good to know. Okay, good information.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
We're going to put you back on mute. Thank you so much. If you guys have a question, please raise your arm and we'll unmute your line. I don't know the name of this person. It just says a Samsung line. So I'm going to try to unmute this. Just give me
Hello.
Hello. Yes, we can hear you. Can you please tell us your name, please?
Yes, this is Irina Charlie at 21 McGovern Court.
Hello,
I have
Irina.
yes, hi everyone. I have some comments about about beautifying our entrance. Frank, it's actually a good job, and I think the flags and the painting over the name and doing it, and cleaning that stand and putting the flowers. It's what we need. I mean, maybe that extra iron work around that will be too much. Because, maybe we need to watch the budget and doing some things that we need most. Why I'm saying most, because since I've moved into this community, and Susan is on the meeting also, and she probably can actually confirm that I've been contacting her and I've been sending my concerns about the pond. problem. And this week I took some pictures, and I was planning actually, but since we have this discussion, I wanted to voice my concern, and maybe the management had that in mind. I just want to make sure that you people can see that what I see. From the time I moved in, it's 5 years, the pond is getting worse and worse. And I sent her pictures, Susan, telling what kind of edge is supposed to be over the pond and how that pond needs to be taken care of. It seems like for 5 years, nothing been done. And the landscapers were also were cutting or, mowing the lawn, the grass around the pond. So, but I'm taking walk every day, and I took pictures, and actually 25% of the pond covered right now with the, the weeds or whatever they have it, some plants. So we have dying, beautifying the entrance. It's all okay. It's all fine. That's what we need. But maybe we don't need to have these benches because we live in the active community. It's not the community that, for assisted living or whatever, but it's also a good idea to have these benches probably around the pond, like some serene place to meditate or something like that. But Frank, you have this, I didn't have time to look at the number of the benches and the places, but I just pay attention to one bench, and it's actually facing the entrance. And I was like saying, wow, who would be sitting on that bench and counting the, the cars that come in and come out from our community? That's not a very, pleasant place to be. So I don't know, Frank, how many we have planned for that, for these benches, but I thought like $2,500, it's too much to spend on something that we don't need. I mean, we can have maybe half of those planned number of benches and put some, maybe 2 even, put by the lake. Or, or like we said, that maybe some people, it's a very good idea, because I've seen that on New Jersey Shore, on the boardwalk, that some people in memory of someone who passed, they will put the note and they will donate that, bench to the community. We should ask our people, but we should not spending $2,500 on something that we don't need, because we need to take care of our pond, and we need to take care of, like, we're going to beautify the entrance, but when you go along, when you're driving through that entrance on the right side, that's just disgusting place to look at. Because 5 years I'm here, and 5 years we have dead bushes still sticking out on the right side of the road. This is how, and the pond that also covered with weeds. And it's, I am planning to go to different communities and take pictures of the ponds they have and how these ponds supposed to look like. Because I've been given this and I've been voicing my concerns, because it's how our community look like. Like, we want to have a beautiful place where we live.
I'm sorry, Irina. We just in the interest of time, right.
This is my concern. This is why I want to, present to the board to think about and to talk about. And I think $2,500, it's not the money we're supposed to spend right now.
Okay.
We should spend this $2,500 on beautifying and take care of a pond.
Thank you, Karine. We're going to put you back on mute. Does anyone from the board want to address comments about the pond? Did you guys know?
I want to know, it would be helpful to, if she can send her pictures to Susan and express what she sees. We'll go out. I know we will go out. Susan will go out. I'll walk. Probably most of the board members will go take a look. But it's good to hear from homeowners what they see and how they perceive things, so we can understand what they see.
If I could say something, Irina came in 2019 to meet with me about the pond, and she brought some pictures. She's calling weeds. So we have natural vegetation around the pond, just like some homeowners have tall natural grass. The pictures she showed were very lovely, but it was a highly manicured trees around it. She's not a fan of the natural vegetation that we have. And the bushes that are going down the clubhouse, we're getting those taken care of this year. We're gonna get those replaced, so.
Good to know.
Okay, thank you, Susan. And again, we'll take a look, and Irene, I know
Yeah.
you're raising your hand again, but we'll address your questions in our investigation. Anyone else in the community would like to ask a question, please raise your arm. Okay, we have William, hang on. Hang on, Bill, 1 second.
The bill.
I don't know, Frank, why I'm having such a, okay, Bill, you should be on now, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Hey,
Okay,
Mr.
great.
Bill.
Hello, everyone. I raised my hand to address the water problem that we have in the back sides of Maria Court. I had Anthony Alfonso, when they were still here with PRC, there's sinkholes against the houses. And they were filled at least 4 times upon my request with Betty Larkin and Anthony Alfonso. And the water still was coming in on the foundation, running down to my sump pump. When we had heavy rains, every 30 seconds, my sump pump would come on because it would fill up. So I tried multiple times to get this corrected and was unsuccessful. They filled it at least 4 times, like I said earlier. But what happened was myself, I went and bought extensions for the leader pipes, and I put elbows on them. I ran them out past the decks.
Sure.
To slow down, because if we have a power outage or if my sump pump fails, I replaced it twice already since I've been here, I'm gonna have a flooded basement. And by Fred Sada, he had the same situation between 6 and 8, where the air conditioner is actually tilted in, was the sinkhole that was in the corner of their house. Now, all 6 houses on the even side and all 6 houses on the odd side have a common foundation. So if you get a sinkhole, like we have 2 of them here on the even side of Maria Court, all that water pours down into the foundations and it'll seek a level spot. So if the sump pumps aren't working, we're gonna get flooded.
True.
And it's and also when it is heavy rains, that sump pump's right below my bedroom. And you hear it, the check valve kick on and off every 30 seconds during heavy rains. And I saw no resolution to it, so I took it upon myself to extend the leader pipes. But it has to be a better, I'm glad you're gonna get somebody who's a professional, like a civil engineer, to come look at it and get this resolved properly and make it final. But it does intrude on the foundations. And the worst thing you could do is put water in your foundation. That creates cracks and freezing and God forbid power outage, you get flooding.
Sure.
Okay?
It's too bad, Bill, that, this is a new board from when had we known about this issue, I'm assure you that this board would have took it to PRC and not let them out the door. Because that is a construction deficiency, I would think. I'm not an expert, but, I'm
Right.
surprised that it wasn't put into the record
Fire
of
board.
these boards so that it could have been acted upon before we released PRC from their obligation at Madison Crossing. But we will look into it. It's definitely a problem. If your sump pump is running that fast, that often, it's definitely a problem. Your problem is different than the problem down by Barber and Hoffman. You have a totally different aspect of the problem.
I know myself and Fred Sada constantly running the sump pumps, especially in the rain.
Yeah.
They're constantly running.
So,
Every 30
good. So I think getting an expert in is the right thing to do at this time and look
I
at
agree.
each of these as individual cases, not as a group case that we have
Correct.
grasp.
Right.
We have to take each one on its own merit and see what the solution is. What may work for you may not work for somebody else. So I'm
Absolutely.
glad that you voiced your opinion tonight to the board so we can take a look at this.
Okay,
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, anyone else with a question, please raise your arm. Electronically, if possible. All right, doesn't look like we have any additional questions. Vinny, do you want to do a closing? I think this was a very successful meeting and we should definitely do more of these in the future, but I'll let you do the closing, Vinny.
All right. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you everyone for signing on and getting a feel for what goes on with the board here. We will continue to have our meetings to address a lot of the issues that go on in the community. As you can see, some of these issues, quite frankly, are not quick 2-second answers, and they take a lot of time to decide in what direction to go. But anyway, we are going to have more of these meetings to invite more homeowners to come to these meetings. And for those of you who signed on tonight, thank you. And I think we're done, unless any other
Yes.
board member has another comment to make.
Just a couple of reminders. We will have an HOA meeting on May 19th, and
Thank
we do have another one of these open workshops scheduled in June. We'll have a date out. They're going to be on Wednesday nights, like tonight's one. But we just wanted to remind you that, again, these are going to show up on your calendars in the future. And again, we certainly appreciate your help, guys, and have a good evening.
Right. Good night, everyone. Thank you for signing on.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, guys.